In March of 2023, we drove our gas-powered Buick Encore from Florida to Michigan to sell it and pick up our new car, which was an all-electric 2023 Chevy Bolt EUV. You can find our video highlighting our drive down I-75 and the electric charging stops we made on our channel, Paradise Today. In this next video, we crunch the numbers on what our trip cost us, but first, I wanted to share our top 3 reasons why we decided to buy a full electric car in the first place. To give a little background, in early 2022, we had had our previous car, a Buick Encore, which was a gas-powered vehicle, for only about 4.5 years. We typically try to keep our cars for around 10 years, so normally we wouldn't be in the market for a new car, but we had recently moved to Florida in 2022, and my husband was thinking about retirement. So that, coupled with the fact that the resale value of our Buick was really high, we started to think about our wants and constraints in regards to our next vehicle. Now, as far as electric cars go, we're very aware that the traditional gas engine automakers have been making big commitments to switching many, if not all, of their vehicle platforms to electric by whatever target dates they've set, and many of their new electric products are coming out in the next few years. Although we'd never owned an electric vehicle before, my husband's years of experience in the automotive industry has given us confidence that electric vehicles today have a clearer path towards mainstream adoption than ever before in history. So we were definitely ready to consider electric vehicles. In thinking about a new car in general, the biggest constraint we had was that our garage was small, and the biggest want that I had was Super Cruise, which is an assisted driving feature on some GM vehicles. We had tried it out before on a borrowed car during a couple of really long road trips, and I was surprised at how much it reduced the strain of driving. Before 2022 model years, though, Super Cruise was only available on Cadillacs, and that unfortunately was just not in our budget. But then, the 2022 Chevy Bolt was offered with Super Cruise as an option, and it was in our price range, so the Bolt just immediately shot to the top of our list. That makes our first reason for switching to an all-electric vehicle more of a reason for buying a Bolt, but it is still a reason nonetheless. We had also considered the Ford Maverick, which is a hybrid small truck, and the Buick Enclave, which is a gas car, to try to bridge this still early adopter period until the national charging infrastructure was more robust. But we moved on from these 2 other choices for a couple of reasons. The first is that we ran the numbers and realized that at least 93% of the year we plan to be charging our car at home, so we're comfortable with going all electric even if there were going to be bumps in the road for us during our long distance travels. The second reason we moved on from the Maverick and Enclave, and also the biggest reason why we made the switch to all electric, is that we no longer wanted to be subjected to stinky gas emissions in our local environment. Now, this is probably just unique to us, but during this time of considering buying a new car, we were dealing with the biggest downside to the wonderful little house we had bought in Daytona Beach, and that was its small 1-car garage. I don't know if it's the Florida heat, the small size, or that it's concrete block, but there were days where we could pull our gas car into the garage and still choke on car exhaust 2 hours later, even with the garage door open a couple of feet at the bottom. It was a source of stress and constant troubleshooting by me and my husband. If you've ever walked past the Tomorrowland Speedway in Magic Kingdom on a windless day in July, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So our number 1 reason for switching to an electric vehicle was to get rid of the stinky emissions in our house. And that quickly brings us to the third reason we wanted to switch to an all-electric vehicle, and that's lower overall maintenance. My husband is the type of guy who does a fair amount of his own house and car maintenance, and that includes oil changes. Even though he is proficient at it, it still makes such a mess with oily filters, funnels, oil jugs, and countless oil-soaked blue towels and pig mats. It's ironic that in retirement he would have plenty of time to do oil changes, but we were both looking forward to the end of all of that hassle and mess. So the inclination to do them was gone, and now with the Bolt, the need to do them is gone too. So those are our top 3 reasons for switching to an all-electric vehicle, and you may have noticed that saving money on gas wasn't one of them for us because you just don't know what cost increases are coming in the future. All of that said, here is the breakdown of the costs from our recent Michigan to Florida trip. This includes the charge stations we charged at, the kilowatt hours that we charged, and cost per kilowatt hour, and the full cost of the charge including taxes and fees. Our trip was estimated at 1,179 miles by Google Maps, but with off-highway stops we ended up driving a total of about 1,200 miles. As you can see, we charged about 368 kilowatt hours, and that cost us $154 for the entire trip. For a cost comparison, when we were driving up to Michigan from Florida, we spent about $134 in gas. While it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, gas was $20 cheaper than our electrical charging costs on the way back home. But that's not the entire story, since vendor-supplied DC fast charging, which is what you want for interstate travel, is not what we'll be doing 93% of the time. So the majority of the time, those same 368 kilowatt hours will only cost us $58.85 if we are charging at home, but that assumes highway mileage. Interestingly enough, it's costing us even less than that for our city driving, which is the reverse of a gas car. So we're definitely saving money right now on our fuel costs for our car, and while that's not why we bought our electric vehicle, it is definitely one of its benefits that we're enjoying. Our biggest takeaway from our analysis is that Electrify America's consistent spacing of 100-ish miles apart between stops 5 and 11 actually allowed for us to skip every other one, or alternatively, charge for half the time that we did. Something that a few commenters pointed out as well on our trip video is that charging speeds are variable in relation to battery percentage, so consistent distance between DC fast charge stations means that we could have depleted the battery to a lower level, like 15 to 20% of charge left, and still have charged after a skip stop to 80% of battery in the same amount of minutes as charging from 50% of charge to 80%. We'll explain that more in a future video. Anyway, at the time, we stopped at every station because we were brand new electric vehicle owners, and we did embark upon our journey with a healthy dose of range anxiety. When we do this trip again, and even if the charging infrastructure doesn't improve beyond what's available today, we will most likely either cut charging times at or skip 3 of those Electrify America stops. In the near term, we hope to see the electric vehicle charging infrastructure grow to consistent and evenly distributed charge stations along America's highways. Thank you for watching, and remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Paradise today to see more of our content.